I am not what has happened to me. I am what I choose to become. Carl Jung. This powerful quote from Jung encapsulates the essence of the theme we are going to explore. The idea that, although we are shaped by our experiences, they do not define who we are permanently. Jung offers us a hopeful and transformative vision, suggesting that we have the power to decide our path, to develop beyond the traumas, difficulties, and unconscious patterns we inherit or acquire throughout life. This conscious choice of transformation is one of the pillars of the journey of individuation, the process by which a person becomes who they really are in their entirety. But do we really control our destiny? Or are we puppets attached to the invisible strings of the collective unconscious, the shadow and the archetypes that govern us in ways we don't always understand? For Jung, destiny is not something fixed and immutable. He recognized the influence of the unconscious and external conditioning, but believed that freedom lies in how we respond to these forces. In fact, destiny, according to Jung, is the result of how we relate to our unconscious and to the deeper aspects of the psyche. From this relationship, we can transform ourselves. The theme of "you control your destiny" connects directly with the central idea of the individuation process, the continuous effort to make the unconscious conscious and thus regain decision-making power over our lives. The central question we face throughout our existence is how to reconcile the internal forces that seem to act beyond our control and the conscious choices we make. Fate, from this perspective, is not an impersonal force that pushes us around aimlessly. It is largely a reflection of our relationship with our own inner being. In this video, we'll explore how Jung's ideas help us understand the relationship between destiny and free will, and how we can take control of our personal trajectory by confronting our shadows, getting to know our archetypes, and embracing the process of individuation. To understand how Jung conceived of controlling destiny, it is necessary to explore some of his central concepts: the personal unconscious, the collective unconscious, archetypes, and the process of individuation. Jung believed that much of what we experience in life is influenced by these deep aspects of the psyche, often beyond our conscious perception. The personal unconscious contains everything that has been repressed or forgotten, but which still has an influence on our thoughts, emotions, and behavior. This is where the shadow resides, one of Jung's fundamental concepts. The shadow represents the aspects of ourselves that we prefer not to face, traits we consider undesirable, frustrations, fears, and repressed impulses. However, when we ignore the shadow, it takes control in a subtle and often destructive way, projecting itself into our relationships and decisions. In addition to the personal unconscious, there is the collective unconscious, an even deeper dimension that is shared by all of humanity. The collective unconscious is home to archetypes, primordial images, and patterns that shape the way we experience the world. Archetypes such as the hero, the sage, the father, the mother, the lover, and many others influence our perception and behavior in invisible ways. These archetypes often act as internal forces that direct our choices, guiding us towards certain behaviors or resistances. Faced with this reality, the question arises: if we are shaped by unconscious forces, how can we say that we control our destiny? For Jung, true control does not come from denying or repressing these forces, but from bringing them to consciousness. The process of individuation, the path we take to become complete and authentic, involves confronting the shadow and integrating the archetypes that influence our psyche. By making the unconscious conscious, we gain greater clarity about who we are. And this gives us the ability to make more authentic and free decisions. Individuation is not an easy process. Facing the shadow can be painful, as it involves facing the parts of ourselves that we would prefer to hide. But it is in this confrontation that the possibility of transforming destiny lies. By accepting and integrating these repressed parts, we stop being victims of our unconscious patterns and begin to exert a more conscious influence over the direction of our lives. Controlling destiny, then, is not a matter of denying our inner influences, but of accepting, understanding, and working with them in a conscious way. It is this process, that allows us to direct our lives with more authenticity and purpose. Imagine someone who, since childhood, has been conditioned to believe that they are not worthy of love. Perhaps this person was ignored or constantly criticized by parents or authority figures. As a result, they repress their emotions and develop a pattern of behavior based on the belief that they must please others in order to be accepted. This behavior reflects the workings of the shadow, which contains the rejection and shame that the person tries to avoid. Throughout life, this person tends to attract abusive or unsatisfactory relationships as they unconsciously seek to confirm the belief that they are not worthy of genuine affection. This is a clear example of how the unconscious can shape our destiny when we don't confront it. The shadow, in this case, acts as a hidden force, influencing choices in a silent but powerful way. Believing that their experiences are merely fate or that things just happen that way, the person keeps repeating the same pattern. But fate can be changed. By getting in touch with the shadow, in this case, the feeling of unworthiness, the person has the chance to transform this pattern. This can happen through a therapeutic process or a personal journey of self-discovery, where they begin to question the limiting beliefs that have governed their life until now. Carl Jung believed that when we bring these repressed aspects to consciousness, we gain the possibility of making different choices, more in line with our true selves. Another practical example can be seen in the quest for success and recognition. Imagine someone who, influenced by a very strong hero archetype, feels constantly pressured to achieve great things. This individual may always be comparing themselves to other people and often sacrifices their own needs and personal happiness in the name of an ideal of success, which, in reality, is not entirely their own. The hero archetype, when acting unconsciously, becomes a force that leads the person to a destiny of exhaustion and dissatisfaction. By becoming aware of this archetype in action, the person can begin to question, am I chasing my own dreams, or those of someone else, or even of a collective archetype? This questioning allows for a change of course. Instead of being overwhelmed by the need to prove their worth, they can redefine what success means to them, creating a more genuine destiny that is aligned with their essence. These examples show that although unconscious factors shape our behavior and choices, we have the ability to change our trajectory. This, however, requires the courage to confront our fears and vulnerabilities, recognizing the parts of us that have been rejected or forgotten. Therefore, controlling destiny is not a matter of simple willpower, but of deep inner work. When we face our shadow and become aware of the archetypes that govern us, we make room to choose new paths. This conscious choice is what really allows us to control our destiny. The relationship between accepting the unconscious and the healing process is at the heart of the transformation of destiny. For Jung, destiny is not a fixed plan, but a field of possibilities that is shaped by the way we interact with the inner forces of the psyche. The more we remain unconscious of our motivations and impulses, the more we are driven by these forces without control over our direction. On the other hand, as we become aware of these aspects, we gain the freedom to choose paths that previously seemed inaccessible. The process of individuation, to which Jung refers repeatedly in his works, is the key to this transformation. Individuation involves a progressive integration of all aspects of the psyche, both conscious and unconscious. This includes facing the shadow, which contains our repressed impulses, and recognizing the archetypes that influence our lives, as mentioned earlier. Through this process of integration, the person becomes more complete, more authentic, and can thus exercise greater control over their destiny. Jung's concept of destiny cannot be fully understood without reference to the collective unconscious. This vast reservoir of memories and archetypal images shared by all of humanity also plays a fundamental role in the way we experience life. Jung observed that we often feel like pawns of forces greater than ourselves, and these forces largely reside in the collective unconscious. However, once we begin to identify these archetypal influences, we can decide how to respond to them. For example, by recognizing that we are under the influence of the hero archetype, as discussed earlier, we can choose to balance this energy with other archetypes, such as the sage or the lover, which bring different perspectives to our lives. Jung believed that by getting in touch with the collective unconscious and its archetypes, we can also find the resources for our transformation. Archetypes, although powerful, are not just controlling forces, they also offer a path to healing. The archetype of the healer, for example, can emerge in moments of suffering and help us find a new way of dealing with our wounds, transforming them into sources of wisdom and strength. Controlling destiny, therefore, is a process of self-discovery and continuous self-reflection. It doesn't mean that we have absolute control over all of life's events. After all, we live in a world full of uncertainties and external influences, but it does mean that we can influence the way we react to these events. By becoming more aware of the inner dynamics that shape our decisions, we can start to make choices that are more in line with our true selves and less guided by automatic patterns or unconscious influences. In the end, destiny, for Jung, is something we co-create in partnership with our psyche. We are not mere victims of circumstances, but neither are we the only agents at play. The key to controlling destiny is therefore to cultivate a conscious relationship with the unconscious. When we embrace the totality of our psyche, including the shadow and archetypes, and engage in the process of individuation, we create the conditions for deep and meaningful transformation. Carl Jung reminds us that destiny is not a fixed prison, but a dynamic process that is in our hands to shape. The phrase, "what you resist, persists," teaches us that denying our inner aspects, such as the shadow, traumas, and repressed emotions, keeps us stuck in repetitive patterns. However, by accepting these aspects, we transform them and thus change the course of our lives. Accepting this reality is an act of courage. Facing the parts of ourselves that are buried in the unconscious is challenging, but it is the only way to achieve true inner freedom. It's often easier to blame fate, external circumstances, or other people for our challenges, but this stance keeps us stagnant. Jung's proposal is different. He invites us to look inwards and understand that true power lies in how we relate to the forces that inhabit our own psyche. The control of destiny, in the Jungian view, is a dance between the conscious and the unconscious. You have to be humble enough to recognize that not everything is under the ego's control, but also bold enough to believe that we can influence our journey. As we face our shadows and integrate the archetypes, we build a solid foundation for choosing the paths we want to take with more clarity and authenticity. Jung talks about the importance of self-realization, which is the ultimate goal of the individuation process. This concept refers to the state in which a person is fully aware of themselves, having integrated both the dark aspects and the creative forces of the unconscious. It is at this point that a person becomes truly free to shape their destiny. Self-realization doesn't mean that everything will be easy or that we will have absolute control over life, but it does mean that we will no longer be randomly thrown around by unconscious forces. We will have the power to make conscious choices, to respond to challenges in a more integrated and mature way. The final message Jung offers us is one of hope. Destiny can sometimes seem like an inescapable force, but as we delve deeper into self-knowledge, we discover that we are co-creators of our own story. The journey of individuation is long and full of obstacles, but it is also the path to true freedom and authenticity. Every step we take towards accepting who we are, including our darker aspects, is a step towards liberation. So how do you control your destiny? Control doesn't come from rigidity or the desire to control everything around us, but from the willingness to face the unknown within ourselves. In doing so, we transform not only our relationship with the world, but also the very destiny that awaits us. At this point, the most important reflection we can make is, are we willing to look inwards and accept responsibility for becoming who we really are? This is the key to controlling destiny, and it is available to everyone who ventures on the journey of individuation. And now we want to know from you, how do these concepts resonate in your life? Have you ever felt stuck in unconscious patterns? Or have you felt that you have taken control of your own destiny? Share your experience in the comments. You may inspire others to take the same path of self-discovery and transformation.